Hey folks, welcome to Deep Dive Dispatch, the podcast where we don't just scratch the surface. We dig deep into the political landscapes that shape our world today. I'm excited to introduce your guides on this journey through history and headlines, John Matthews and his insightful co-host, Sarah Collins. Together, they'll peel back the layers of complex political issues, offering a slightly conservative viewpoint while staying rooted in facts and historical context. So, buckle up for a thought-provoking ride as we dive into the stories behind the stories. This is Deep Dive Dispatch. Let's get started.
You've sent us a mountain of material on the Biden family business dealings, focusing especially on the recent congressional testimonies and President Biden's pardon of Hunter.
What's fascinating about this particular deep dive is the potential for President Biden's actions to actually backfire.
Okay, let's unpack this pardon, because you're right, it seems counterintuitive. On December 2nd, President Biden gave Hunter a full pardon covering any potential federal offenses from 2014 to 2024.
This blanket pardon is unusual in its scope and timing. It goes beyond Hunter's recent tax and gun convictions and suggests a preemptive move to shield him from anything that might emerge from the ongoing congressional investigations.
And of course, it contradicts Biden's previous promise not to pardon his son. That broken promise throws gasoline on an already fiery situation.
Exactly. It raises questions about potential political motivations and fuels skepticism about the administration's transparency. This is where the House Oversight Committee, led by Chairman James Comer, enters the picture.
Right, they've been following the money. They claim to have bank records showing over $10 million going to Biden family members from companies tied to countries like China, Romania, and Ukraine, both during and after Joe Biden's time as vice president.
The committee has zeroed in on Hunter Biden's activities, especially his work with Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company, and his involvement with CEFC, a Chinese energy firm. These dealings coincided with his father's political career, creating a perception of potential conflicts of interest.
Now, President Biden has repeatedly denied any involvement in his family's business affairs. He insists he never discussed business with Hunter or received any money from China.
But his denials are directly challenged by Tony Bobulinski. Hunter's former business partner, Bobulinski, has testified that he met with Joe Biden to discuss business deals and claims the president's denials are a blatant lie.
Bobulinski even claims the big guy, mentioned in emails, is receiving a cut of the profits as Joe Biden himself. And he reiterated these claims under oath during his FBI interview. This directly contradicts statements from Biden's representatives about him never meeting with certain individuals.
We're seeing a clash of narratives here, making it difficult to discern the truth. There's also the matter of Hunter's behavior, which Bobulinski described as concerning, particularly with CEFC.
Bobulinski claims Hunter used his father's name and political influence to pressure the Chinese company, painting a troubling picture of potential exploitation of family connections for personal gain.
This is where the pardon's potential backfire comes into play. It creates an image of shielding Hunter from accountability, which could further fuel public distrust.
Let's delve into the congressional testimonies. Several key figures have appeared before the Oversight Committee, shedding light on these intricate dealings and contradicting President Biden's statements.
Bobulinski has been the most explosive, alleging Joe Biden was aware of and involved in Hunter's business dealings. He even claims both Hunter and James Biden, the president's brother, committed perjury during their testimonies, lying about Joe's involvement.
That's a serious accusation. Bobulinski claims he has emails and text messages to support these allegations, specifically regarding his 2017 venture with CEFC, the Chinese energy company. He says Joe, referred to as the big guy in those communications, was initially set to receive a 10% stake.
What's intriguing is Bobulinski's claim that the equity breakdown was later altered, removing Joe Biden's name and increasing James Biden's share. This raises suspicions about a potential cover-up.
And then there's Bobulinski's account of meeting with Joe Biden at the Beverly Hilton in Los Angeles, supposedly arranged by Hunter to discuss the CEFC deal.
This meeting, if confirmed, directly contradicts the president's claims of never discussing business with Hunter. It raises serious questions about his honesty and transparency, further highlighting the potential for the pardon to backfire by seeming like an attempt to quash these revelations.
And remember, Bobulinski claims he has evidence to back up his claims, including the 10 held by H for the big guy email, which seems to directly implicate Joe Biden in the CEFC deal.
The existence of this email, if verified, would be highly damaging to the president's denials of involvement and could add significant weight to the accusations of a cover-up. It also raises the question of whether this pardon was intended to preempt the release of further incriminating evidence.
Let's move on to Hunter Biden's own testimony. He admitted to receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars from CEFC after his father left the vice presidency, contradicting Joe Biden's earlier claim that Hunter never made money from China.
Hunter's testimony focused on downplaying his activities and his father's knowledge of them. However, his account seems to clash with the evidence from Bobulinski and the House Oversight Committee.
For instance, Hunter claimed he officially began working for CEFC in spring 2017. But Bobulinski alleges Hunter was demanding payment for past work from CEFC executives as early as May of that year. This discrepancy further weakens Hunter's credibility.
Exactly. These inconsistencies feed into a narrative of potential concealment. Then there's Hunter's claim that Joe Biden never interacted with any of his business associates, which Bobulinski directly contradicts with his account of the Beverly Hilton meeting.
This stark contrast raises the question, who is telling the truth?
Right.
This brings us back to the pardon. Was it intended to silence Hunter, preventing him from incriminating his father further? Or was it truly an act of fatherly love, as the administration claims?
The timing and scope of the pardon suggest a strategic move, perhaps, to limit the damage from these testimonies and prevent further revelations that could implicate the president.
Okay, so we've laid out the pardon, the denials, and the conflicting testimonies. Now we have to consider the potential impact of the pardon on the ongoing investigations.
Hey everyone, just taking a moment to send a huge shout out to all of you tuning in to Deep Dive Dispatch. Your support really keeps us going. And if you're enjoying the deep dives and want to help us continue bringing you these thought-provoking discussions, head over to deepdivedispatch.com. It's an awesome way to support the show and keep the conversation alive. Big thanks for being part of our community. Now, let's jump back into the next part of our episode and keep unraveling these intriguing topics. Enjoy.
The pardon, while protecting Hunter from federal prosecution, doesn't prevent him from being compelled to testify before Congress. This creates a dilemma for both Hunter and the president.
Right, Hunter could plead the Fifth Amendment, refusing to answer questions that could incriminate him. This would look suspicious and could be seen as an obstruction of justice.
And it puts President Biden in a bind. He could face accusations of interfering with congressional oversight if he tries to shield his son from testifying.
And if Hunter does testify, he risks further contradicting his father's statements or revealing information that could lead to new investigations, perhaps even at the state level, which the pardon doesn't cover.
Exactly. This pardon, rather than being a solution, might turn out to be a catalyst for more scrutiny. It's a classic example of unintended consequences in politics, where actions taken to protect someone can end up causing more harm.
And all of this is happening under the intense scrutiny of the media and the public. This saga is far from over, and the pardon might have just thrown a wrench into the works, turning a family drama into a potential political earthquake.
What we're witnessing is a collision between personal loyalty, political ambition, and the quest for truth. How this plays out will have far-reaching implications for the Biden presidency and perhaps even public trust in our political system as a whole.
You've definitely given us a lot to think about. It seems like this pardon, intended to be a shield, might actually turn into a spotlight illuminating the very things it was meant to hide.
The question is, what will that spotlight reveal? And what will the consequences be for President Biden, his family, and the nation? It certainly seems that way. And the timing of this pardon, coming shortly after Hunter's guilty pleas on tax and gun charges, further intensifies the scrutiny.
It almost feels like a preemptive strike, trying to head off potential fallout from these congressional investigations, and it throws a wrench into the investigations themselves. While Hunter is shielded from federal charges, he can still be compelled to testify.
Exactly. This raises the possibility of him invoking the Fifth Amendment, refusing to answer questions that could incriminate him in potential state-level charges. That wouldn't play well in the court of public opinion.
It would create a perception of hiding something, which wouldn't help the president's already damaged image. Speaking of those investigations, let's dive into the testimony of Devon Archer Hunter's former best friend and business partner.
Archer's testimony before the House Oversight Committee was particularly damaging because it corroborated many of Bobulinski's claims. He added weight to the allegations against the Bidens, confirming Joe Biden's presence at dinners and meetings with Hunter's business associates, contradicting the president's assertions of never discussing business with his son.
Archer even testified that Hunter would frequently put his father on speakerphone during business calls, further eroding the president's claims of being unaware of his son's dealings. It seems like a pattern of intentional obfuscation is emerging.
Indeed, Archer's testimony suggests a deliberate effort to shield the president from scrutiny, which adds another layer of intrigue to this whole situation. And the revelations don't stop there.
Right. Archer also revealed the significance of the Biden brand in Hunter's business dealings. He stated that Hunter frequently invoked his family name and his father's political connections to secure deals and access powerful individuals. It raises concerns about potential conflicts of interest and whether Joe Biden was aware of the extent to which his name was being used.
This confirms that Hunter was essentially selling access to his father, leveraging his position as vice president and later as president for personal gain. It raises serious ethical concerns and potentially puts national interests at risk.
And on top of that, the House Oversight Committee released a memo detailing bank records that revealed payments to the Bidens from Russia, Kazakhstan, and Ukraine. This adds fuel to the fire by providing concrete evidence of the Biden family's involvement in international business deals, raising questions about their motivations.
These financial records directly contradict previous denials by the Bidens about receiving money from foreign entities, further eroding public trust. But perhaps the most damning revelation is the existence of at least 150 suspicious activity reports related to Hunter Biden's shady foreign business deals.
These reports generated by U.S. banks flag potentially illegal or suspicious financial activity, adding to the mounting evidence against Hunter. This raises serious concerns about the legality of his business practices and potential involvement in money laundering or other financial crimes.
The sheer number of these reports is alarming and puts immense pressure on the Biden administration to explain why they were seemingly ignored or downplayed. It also lends credence to the accusations of a cover-up, further damaging the president's credibility.
The House Oversight Committee hasn't held back in their criticism of the Treasury Department's lack of transparency regarding these reports. They've accused the department of obstructing their investigation and running cover for Hunter, possibly to protect the president.
This accusation, if substantiated, would be a major blow to the administration, further fueling accusations of corruption and a two-tiered justice system that favors the politically connected.
And speaking of potential cover-ups, the committee has also been investigating allegations of misconduct and politicization within the Department of Justice and the IRS concerning the Hunter Biden investigation. They've heard from IRS whistleblowers who alleged that the investigation was mishandled and that Hunter received preferential treatment.
These allegations are incredibly damaging, suggesting that the Biden administration may have interfered with the legal process to protect Hunter. It further erodes public trust in law enforcement agencies and raises serious questions about the impartiality of the justice system.
The committee's focus on the potential intertwining of Joe Biden's official duties as vice president with his family's business dealings is particularly concerning. They've requested records from the National Archives to determine whether Biden mixed government business with his family's influence peddling schemes.
This line of inquiry is crucial. It directly addresses the question of whether Joe Biden personally benefited from or used his position to facilitate his family's business dealings. If evidence emerges supporting this, it could even lead to impeachment proceedings.
And then there's the curious case of Hunter Biden's artwork, which is sold for exorbitant prices despite his lack of experience. The committee has raised concerns about potential conflicts of interest, questioning whether buyers are using the art purchases to gain access to the president.
This is a prime example of how Hunter's activities raise ethical concerns and potential conflicts of interest. The secrecy surrounding the buyers' identities and the high prices paid fuel suspicions of influence peddling and attempts to curry favor with the president.
The committee subpoenaed Hunter's art gallerist, Georges Albéger, demanding information about the buyers and transactions, accusing Bergès of obstructing their investigation and hiding potentially relevant information.
This subpoena demonstrates the committee's commitment to uncovering the truth behind Hunter's art dealings. It's another thread in the larger tapestry of potential corruption that they're trying to unravel.
And let's not forget about the alleged suppression of information about the Biden family business dealings by big tech companies like Facebook and Twitter, particularly during the 2020 election. The committee has been investigating these allegations as well.
This alleged censorship raises concerns about big tech's influence on political discourse and potential attempts to suppress information damaging to the Bidens. It adds to the perception of a coordinated effort to protect the president and his family, further fueling distrust in these platforms.
The committee has held hearings and issued reports detailing their findings on big tech's influence, arguing that these companies have unchecked power to suppress free speech and shape public opinion.
These findings raise important questions about the role of big tech in a democratic society and the need for greater transparency and accountability. The potential for manipulation of public opinion and interference in elections through these platforms is a significant concern.
So as we can see, the congressional investigations paint a complex and troubling picture of the Biden family's business dealings. The evidence suggests a pattern of leveraging political connections for personal gain, potential conflicts of interest, and possible attempts to conceal the truth from the American people.
The emerging narrative is one of potential abuse of power influence peddling and a concerted effort to protect those involved, even if it means obstructing investigations or subverting the legal process.
And President Biden's pardon of Hunter, while perhaps intended to protect his son, may have inadvertently thrown gasoline on the fire, intensifying public scrutiny and fueling further distrust in his administration.
This pardon, rather than offering a resolution, seems to be creating more questions than answers. It's a bold move that could have significant consequences for the president, his family, and the nation as a whole.
Now let's turn our attention to a specific allegation that has been circulating for some time but recently gained more traction. The alleged bribery scheme involving the Bidens and the Ukrainian company Burisma Senator Chuck Grassley recently released an FBI document detailing these claims.
Hey everyone, just taking a moment to send a huge shout out to all of you tuning in to Deep Dive Dispatch. Your support really keeps us going. And if you're enjoying the deep dives and want to help us continue bringing you these thought-provoking discussions, head over to deepdivedispatch.com. It's an awesome way to support the show and keep the conversation alive. Big thanks for being part of our community. Now, let's jump back into the next part of our episode and keep unraveling these intriguing topics. Enjoy.
This document, an FD Den 023 form, is used by the FBI to record unverified information from confidential sources. Think of it like a tip line where information, however raw or unverified, is documented for potential future investigation.
All right, so it's important to remember that the document itself doesn't confirm the bribery scheme actually took place. It simply records the claims made by this confidential source, which the FBI has described as raw, unverified information.
Exactly. These FD 1023 forms are just a starting point, not conclusive evidence. But the claims made in this particular document are quite serious.
The source alleges that Burisma executives paid bribes to both Joe and Hunter Biden in exchange for their help in removing Viktor Shokin, Ukraine's top prosecutor at the time. Burisma, facing pressure from Shokin, believed his removal would benefit their business interests.
The source even claims to have audio recordings of both Bidens confirming their involvement in the scheme. If authentic, these recordings could be explosive.
The release of this document has sparked a political firestorm, with Republicans demanding answers and Democrats dismissing it as a politically-motivated smear campaign.
The situation is further complicated by Joe Biden's public involvement in efforts to remove Shokin from office while he was vice president. While the Obama administration and other Western allies maintained that Shokin was corrupt, the timing of his removal coinciding with Hunter Biden's involvement with Burisma raises eyebrows.
It creates an appearance of a conflict of interest, even if no concrete evidence of wrongdoing exists. And the fact that the source in the FBI document alleges that Burisma executives specifically bragged about paying bribes to the Bidens to get Shokin fired adds fuel to the fire.
It provides a potential motive for Joe Biden's actions and suggests that Burisma believed they were getting something in return for their payments to the Bidens.
Of course, we have to be cautious and reiterate that these are just claims from a source, not verified facts. It's possible that the Burisma executives were exaggerating or even fabricating their interactions with the Bidens.
Absolutely. We must avoid jumping to conclusions based on unverified allegations. But the seriousness of the claims and the potential implications for national security warrant a thorough and impartial investigation.
And that's precisely what the House Oversight Committee is aiming to do. They've subpoenaed documents and witnesses, including Devin Archer, who served on Burisma's board alongside Hunter.
Archer's testimony could be crucial in illuminating the inner workings of Burisma and the extent of Hunter's involvement. He could provide insights into whether Joe Biden was aware of or involved in any discussions regarding Shokin's removal.
The committee is also attempting to access the alleged audio recordings mentioned by the source in the FBI document. If these recordings exist and are authenticated, they could be pivotal in supporting or refuting the bribery allegations.
They could also shed light on the nature of the relationship between the Bidens and Burisma executives. However, even if these bribery allegations are ultimately debunked, the entire saga has already tarnished Joe Biden's reputation and raised serious questions about his judgment.
The perception of a conflict of interest, even if it's not a legal violation, can be just as damaging to a politician's credibility. And the fact that this entire situation involves his son, who has a history of personal struggles and questionable business dealings, makes matters worse.
It creates a narrative that resonates with public distrust of political elites, a powerful family potentially using its connections for personal gain. This distrust can be difficult to overcome even with clear evidence to the contrary.
So we've gone pretty deep here. There are a lot of moving pieces and a lot we just don't know for sure yet. But it's clear that these allegations and investigations are raising serious questions about transparency, accountability, and potential conflicts of interest.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of a strong and independent judiciary and a free press that can hold those in power accountable.
This situation with the Bidens and their business dealings underscores something that I think transcends partisan politics. It's a reminder that public trust is fragile and easily eroded. It needs to be earned and constantly protected.
I completely agree. Ultimately, this is about much more than just one family. It's about upholding the principles of fairness and justice that are the foundation of a healthy democracy.
So where do we go from here? What should our listeners be watching for as this story continues to unfold?
I think the key is to pay attention to the evidence as it emerges. Avoid jumping to conclusions based on speculation or partisan spin. Follow the money, scrutinize the relationships, and look for inconsistencies in the narratives.
And don't be afraid to demand transparency from those in power. This isn't about taking sides. It's about demanding accountability and upholding the integrity of our institutions.
You hit the nail on the head. We as citizens have a responsibility to stay informed, stay engaged, and hold our leaders to the highest ethical standards.
Well, on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the complex and often murky world of the Biden family business dealings. We've examined the allegations, the investigations, and the potential implications.
And we've tried to do so in a way that's fair, balanced, and evidence-based.
As this saga continues to unfold, we encourage you to stay informed, stay curious, and stay engaged. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another exploration of a timely and important issue.
Until then, stay informed and stay skeptical.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive Dispatch. We hope you found today's episode enlightening and packed full of insight. Remember, your support keeps us diving deep into the stories that matter. So if you enjoyed the show, make sure to download and share it with others who crave a deeper understanding of politics and history. And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If there's a topic out there that you think deserves a deep dive, reach out and let us know. Your input helps us bring you the most compelling content week after week. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time on Deep Dive Dispatch. Keep exploring, folks.